Today we're going to be working on our Place to Remember paintings. We're going to be doing the backgrounds of them. So once you have selected your image, you've done your two different sketches, and you're ready to move on to your final, we are actually not going to be drawing the building itself. We are going to wait to do the building, and we will just start out by doing the sky and the ground of your painting to start. And then we'll come back and draw the building on using chalk. Yes, chalk, because it erases really easily, and it doesn't damage the paint underneath. Okay, so when you think about what time of day you're going to do this painting, you are going to decide how and what colors you're going to be using. And so I recommend thinking back to your painting techniques chart. I recommend thinking about using blending for your sky. So, what I'm going to do is, in my picture, it looks like about 2/3 of my picture, or even 3/4 of my picture, is going to be sky, and a very small sliver of brown will be in my picture. So since I'm going to do a daytime sky, I'm going to start out with my light blue, and I'm just going to make my horizon line with my light blue. Now notice how I went off my paper and I got some paint on my table. I'd much rather you get paint on your table than not paint to the edge of your painting. So paint all the way to the edges. At the end of class, we'll clean off the tables. So notice that I'm starting to do this outline fill-in technique. This is one of our painting techniques, thinking back to it. It was the very first one we did. And I'm using long, confident brush strokes to paint in that background. I haven't actually started doing my painting technique of blending yet. I'm just working on getting a nice, solid, even coverage of paint. And I do that by slightly overlapping what I've previously painted before. Okay, so once I have that done, I'm ready to transition to my next color. So I'm going to hold my water cup, wash out my paintbrush by rubbing my paintbrush on the bottom, and then I'm going to wipe off the extra water. Then I'm going to go into my next color, and so since I'm doing a daytime sky, I want to do that next color as my white, and I'm going to again just outline fill in. Some of them have started to mix already, and that's totally fine. If your colors have started to mix before you're ready to, not a problem. We're going to mix them together in a minute, so it'll be just fine. And so now I have done outline fill in with both of those colors. I'm going to take my paintbrush, I'm going to put a little bit of water on it, and then I'm going to start to mix those two colors together, mixing the white into the blue, bringing that white down, and then adding a little bit more water to my paintbrush, and mixing that blue into the white. And what I'm trying to do, notice how I'm going all the way across my painting. I'm not stopping halfway through, and I'm trying to mix those two colors together. If I've noticed that I used too much blue, maybe not enough white, I'm going to wash out my paintbrush, take some of that white, and mix that white directly in. The reason why I added water to my paintbrush earlier is sometimes the paint starts to dry out before you're ready for it to, and by just adding a little bit of water to this type of paint, tempera paint, you have the ability to kind of rehydrate it and get it to start moving again. Alright, so I'm pretty pleased with that. I'm going to wash out my paintbrush, and then we're going to move on to the ground. So we haven't really talked about how to color mix for our paintings. So when we color mix, we're actually going to do it directly on our paper by doing a wet on wet color mixing. So when you do wet on wet color mixing, you start out by taking your first color, and you're just going to do, again, your normal outline fill in.